Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Faye Grinstead from, I think it's Ocilla, Georgia. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that right. She went missing October 22nd, 2005. She was 30 years old, 5'3" to 5'5". She had accomplished so much in her life, and she just seemed like a wonderful young lady. She was last seen around 11 p.m. at an acquaintance residence in the vicinity of the 700 block of West 3rd Street in Ocilla, Georgia. She left the residence and arrived at her home in the vicinity of South Adler Street and West Park Street. It is unknown what time she arrived, but they found her vehicle, the clothes she wore, and her cell phone at her residence, which was locked. Brown hair, brown eyes, pierced ears, pierced navel, small tan-colored birthmark on front of her shoulder, possibly wearing black sweatpants, possibly gray New Balance sneakers. And here's some pictures of her. Very beautiful young lady. And then we go to Wikipedia. And Wikipedia said she was born November 14th, 1974. She was an American high school history teacher. She went missing October 22nd, 2005, and was declared dead in 2010. And you can pause this if you read it. You can pause this and read it if you want to. I'm just going to skim through it. It says on February 23rd, 2017, the GBI gave a press conference saying that a tip that had been received led to the arrest of Ryan Alexander Duke. So if you have a tip, you have information about somebody that went missing or who a Jane Doe is, make sure you give that tip to authorities. Even if somebody was drinking and talking, you feel like it's hearsay, you're not sure if it's true, give it to the authorities. Let them decide what's relevant, what's pertinent. You never know what's going to happen. So this says, it says an additional arrest was made public when Duke's former classmate, Bo Duke, was charged with attempting to conceal a death, hindering apprehension, and tampering with evidence. Is Bo Duke and Ryan Alexander Duke two different people? So, Grinstead was born November 14th, 1974, Hawkinsville, Georgia, to Bill and Faye Bennett Grinstead. She had a sister, Anita Grinstead. She won the title Miss Tifton in 1999 and competed in the Miss Georgia beauty pageant. Wow. Her winnings from this pageant and many others that she entered helped her pay for her college. She got a master's degree. It says, and then she started teaching history in Irwin County High School. And you can tell I'm just kind of skimming through this. After that, she coached young contestants and she visited a beauty pageant because she was a coach to some of the young contestants the night before her disappearance, and she attended a barbecue. What a beautiful lady, how sweet and kind to do something like that. So then she went missing. And it says that basically, and it mentions another lady that went missing. Jennifer Joyce Kessie, born May 20th, 1981, went missing from Orlando, Florida, January 23rd, 2006. Shortly after she vanished, her car was found parked around a mile from her home with security footage showing her kidnapper, but it wasn't clear enough quality to distinguish who he was. And so it says that there was a glove found that had DNA on the glove. And they were trying to find out whose DNA it was, but they couldn't find any matches. And there was different TV shows and podcasts, and you can pause this and read it, that featured her story to try to bring new interest in it. It says that on February 23rd, 2017, the GBI announced that they had received a tip that led to the arrest of Ryan Alexander Duke for her murder. About 3 years before her disappearance, he had attended Irwin County High School, where she was employed as a teacher. According to the warrants read in court, on the day that she disappeared, he was burglarizing and robbing her home. She walked in, she caught him in the act, and he murdered her and then removed her body from the house. He strangled her to death. Another arrest March 3rd was made in connection with that. Bo Duke, a former classmate of Ryan Alexander Duke with no familiar relation. Oh, okay. I thought maybe they were brothers or cousins or something. Was charged with attempting to conceal a death, hindering apprehension, and tampering with evidence. Grinstead's sister, Anita Gaddis, said, forgive me if I didn't pronounce that right, that she has known Bo Duke's family for years but never connected him with any part of her sister's disappearance. In August 2017, a grand jury filed 4 new charges against Dukes. I guess the 2 of them. 2 counts of making false statements. I don't know which one or both of them. 1 count of hindering apprehension of a criminal and 1 count of concealing the death of another. These additional charges are based on the Wilcox County indictment stating that the Dukes had lied to the GBI official who questioned them in 2016 concerning the disappearance of Grinstead. Well, of course they lied. After Ryan Duke and Bo Dukes, okay, one's Dukes and one's Duke. Maybe that's what it is. That's why it says Dukes. Were arrested. The Judge Melanie Cross issued a gag order prohibiting anyone involved in the case from talking about it in order to protect their right to a fair trial. Georgia television stations WMAZ, WXIA challenged the order in court, and Judge Cross relaxed the order but still restricted public comment by anyone working with the prosecution or defense court staff and current and former police officers on the case. WMAZ and WXIA again took this order to court, and the case went to the Supreme Court of Georgia October 2017. In March 2018, the gag order was tossed out in unanimous opinion. The trial of Bo Dukes began March 19, 2019. He was found guilty for his role in helping cover up the murder and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. He got 25 years in prison for helping to cover up the murder. Ryan Duke's murder trial, so this is the murder. How many years did he get if the other guy got 25 years, right? Was set for April 1st, 2019, but the Georgia Supreme Court delayed the trial on March 28, 2019 after Duke's lawyer contended that they were unconstitutionally denied funds for experts to testify on his behalf. The trial began March 9, 2022. He pleaded not guilty, blamed the other man for the killing. On March 20th, Duke was found not guilty of murder, aggravated assault, and burglary, but guilty of concealing a death. So who's the real murderer? And who's the one who concealed it? 3 days later, he got 10 years in prison. So the other guy who was found guilty for helping him cover it up, who wasn't the one that robbed the house and walked in on it, were they both robbing the house, or did one rob the house and kill her and go get help from the other one? I don't understand. But this guy got 25 years in prison, and it says for his role in helping cover up the murder. And this man, who I thought had been the one that killed her and was robbing her house, he got 10 years in prison. So I'm kind of confused, because they're both trying to say that the other one was the murderer. So now I don't even know for sure, but it sounded like, and that's just my speculation, that the one that got the 10 years was the one that had killed her, and the one that got the 25 years was the one that helped cover up the murder. And so, but I'm not certain. That's just the way it was worded, in my opinion. So, wow. But Such a beautiful lady, too. And here's the other lady that was went missing that they had mentioned as well. This Tara went missing October 22nd, 2005, and this lady went missing January 23rd, 2006. It was not long after. And so they had thought the cases might have been connected, I thought. So were they? I'm going to scroll down slowly so you can pause it and read it if you want to, because I don't want to read it all. But she mentioned she was with her boyfriend around 10 p.m. It gives a broken down timeline of everything. It's like a really good timeline. Then it talks about the investigation. And like I said, you can pause it and read it. She is still considered missing and endangered. Oh, so they haven't charged anybody with it. Wow. I thought maybe it was the same people. This mentions she might have fallen victim to human trafficking, but they consider that less likely than others. Wow. Anyway, the Charlie Project, look at all the photos of her. Born November 14th, 1974, 5'3", and weighed 100 to 110 pounds. This says she was last seen at around 11 p.m. at an acquaintance residence in the vicinity of the 700 block of West 3rd Street and Ocilla, Georgia, if I'm pronouncing that right. Forgive me if I'm not. There was a Miss Sweet Potato pageant. Is that right? And and why do they call her Grinstead by her last name? Tara Faye Grinstead, I would say, and Tara, a former beauty queen, was helping contestants with their makeup. She left the residence and went home, and she was never heard from since. And I'm just skimming this again. She missed church services the following day, so she attended church, which is atypical of her behavior. She was employed as an 11th grade history teacher at Irwin County High School at the time of her disappearance, and she was reported missing October 24th after she failed to show up for work and did not notify anyone she would be absent. And that's uncharacteristic of her. So she's 30 years old. She goes to church. She has a master's degree. She was a coach for other young girls at the Miss Sweet Potato pageant because she herself had won different pageants and been able to pay for her college that way. So she wanted to help other young girls as well, which is such a beautiful thing to do. So they found her home locked, her white Mitsubishi 3000, the clothes she was last wearing, and her cell phone were at her home, as were her cat and dog. The only items missing were her purse, her keys, and her earrings she was last wearing. A single latex glove was found on the front lawn, and a business card was wedged in the front door. Her bedside alarm clock had fallen on the floor and was broken. Some beads were scattered across the floor. One of her bedposts was damaged and her bedroom lampshade was askew, but there were no other indications that a struggle had taken place. Her car was found unlocked with $100 in cash in the console and with clay on the tires. Her loved ones stated it was uncharacteristic of her to leave her car unlocked or to drive it on dirt roads. The car seats were also reportedly adjusted to fit a person taller than her. At the time of her disappearance, she lived alone and she was not married. Her boyfriend of 6 years had ended their relationship a few weeks before. Her ex-boyfriend was questioned in her case but denied any involvement. Their relationship had been troubled, but there had never been any indication of violence. A former student who had been arrested for harassing her was also questioned and maintained his innocence in her disappearance. The business card turned out to be from a married police officer who lived in a nearby town. He frequently visited her house. He said he tried to see her on Sunday night, but she didn't answer the door. He left 24 messages on her phone that weekend. He maintains his innocence in her case. Investigators stated all three men had alibis, but none of their alibis completely covered the 34-hour period during which she went missing. DNA was recovered from the latex glove found in the yard and checked against the men, but it didn't match any of them. In February 2017, there was an unexpected break in the case when Ryan Alexander Duke was arrested and charged with her murder. Authorities stated that until a few days before his arrest, Ryan wasn't even on their radar. In March, Bo Dukes was also charged with concealing a death. So one was charged with murder and one with concealing a death. The two men had been classmates where she worked, but had graduated several years before she disappeared. Photos of both of them are posted in this case summary. Because of the similarity in the men's names, they will be referred to by their first names in this account. Ryan confessed that he had broken into her home, found her in bed, and strangled her. He asked Bo, his friend, to help dispose of the body. Bo stated he and Ryan took her body to Bo's uncle's pecan farm in Ben Hill County, Georgia, and disposed of it. In a videotaped confession to the police, Bo stated they had covered her body with wood and burned it for 2 days until it looked like it was all ash. Authorities were only able to find scattered bone and tooth fragments too small to test for DNA at the farm. So that means they pretty much found what was her remains that were left of her. Bo was released from jail on $15,000 bond while the Grinstead case was pending. He was also facing federal charges for conspiracy to steal government property. He was ordered to pay $130,000 restitution and complete 40 hours of community service for this, but failed to do either. And in November 2018, he was ordered to serve 6 months in prison. He had agreed to voluntary surrender on a to-be-determined date, but the surrender agreement was revoked after he was charged with rape, aggravated sodomy, false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm. What? He was charged with rape, aggravated sodomy, false imprisonment, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. He allegedly sexually assaulted 2 women at gunpoint at his home in Warner Robins, Georgia on December 31st, 2018. He went on the run and was apprehended at the family member's house in Ocilla on January 5th, 2018. His bond in the Grinstead case was revoked. In March 2019, Bo went to trial for his role in covering up Grinstead's death. He was convicted of hindering the apprehension of a criminal, concealing the death of another, and 2 counts of making false statement, and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. Wow, now I see why I get 25 years in prison. At Ryan's trial in May 2022, he denied having killed her and claimed Bo had been solely responsible for her death and that he himself had only helped him conceal her body by burning it. He said he only made the false confession because he was afraid of Bo. He was found guilty of concealing a death, but not guilty of murder, aggravated assault, and burglary. It is uncharacteristic of Grinstead to leave home without informing anyone of her whereabouts or making arrangements for the welfare of her pet. She had dreamed of becoming a school principal and had applied for a PhD program with the school in mind. In 2010, she was declared dead and her father was placed in charge of her estate. Foul play is suspected in her case due to the circumstances involved. And I didn't feel the need to look for any Jane Does because to me, they found her remains or what was left of her. And that is just horrific. It's so sad. So there was her, Tara Grinstead. And there's also, because they mentioned Jennifer Kessie, or Kess, I don't know how to pronounce it, from Orlando, Florida. There's also her case is open and it has not been solved and they don't know what happened to her. So if you have any information while you're looking at this, please contact authorities and let them know. And please don't forget to pray for their families and their loved ones. Feel free to leave comments and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.